don't forget to subscribe, and let's get started.
Howdy there folks, and welcome to my first proper YouTube video. Because it's my first proper video on YouTube, I wanted it to be a special one and one that meant something to me. That is why I'm choosing to make a mushroom risotto. I love this dish so much because it's the dish that got me into cooking. It took my food virginity, popped my culinary cherry, so to speak. And it's because it's a very hands-on dish. You're involved in absolutely every part of it. It takes constant attention, but the results are amazing. There's just no other dish that's quite like risotto, so I don't want to be boring you, so let's get to making it. So we're going to start off by dicing some shallots. Now you can of course use onions if you prefer, but I find that shallots just have a bit of a sweeter flavour to them. So first you'll always want to remember that your knife needs to be sharp. There's less injuries with a sharp knife, believe it or not. So we're going to start by topping and tailing the shallot. We're then going to take the skin off and make a few cuts sideways and then make a few cuts down the shallot. This is going to allow you to chop the rest of the shallot up and it will be diced. Now I am using chestnut mushrooms because they were the only thing that I could get, but I would always advise if you can use something like wild mushrooms, then that would be amazing, but they're not always available. So you're going to need about 700 to 800 grams of mushrooms sliced. We're then going to crush and peel some garlic and get that sliced up and put aside as well. Next, you're going to want to take the leaves off about 2 sprigs of thyme and run a knife through it. All in all, you're looking for about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half of fresh thyme. As risotto is basically fully cooked in stock, you really want to make sure that you're picking the right stock. With a mushroom risotto, I'd always advise going with either a chicken or a vegetable stock. Now, I am actually using 2 different types of stock. So I'm working with a base stock of vegetable, and I'm going to be mixing that with a mushroom stock. Now, it's incredibly difficult to find mushroom stock cubes or the stock pots. So what I would advise doing, it can be easier to find dried mushrooms. You'll find these in a lot of health food shops, but they are in a lot of bigger supermarkets now. This is about 20 grams, and soak them in a bit of hot water. Just enough that they're all kind of floating around. If you leave that soak for about 20 to 30 minutes, you will end up with a beautiful, rich mushroom stock. So while we get our dried mushrooms rehydrating, we're going to get some oil into a pan and get that nice and hot. We're then going to start frying off our mushroom in batches. You don't want to put them all in at once because if you do, they'll just become waterlogged. So you fry them off in batches and we're going to leave them sit, and this is just to make sure that all of the water evaporates. We don't want a big soggy mess. We then clear out the pan and we're going to start frying off our shallots. You're going to leave them fry for about 2 to 3 minutes just to bring that sweetness out, and then we're going to get our garlic and our thyme in there for a further 2 to 3 minutes. So for this we're going to be using arborio rice. If you can't see arborio rice in the shop, it may just be down as risotto rice. The reason we're using this rice is it's a shorter grain. Unlike long grain or basmati rice, this means it has a lot more starch in it. And unlike long grain or basmati rice, where you're going to want to wash as much of the starch out, with things like risotto, sushi, rice pudding, you're looking to keep as much of the starch in as possible. So we're only going to give this a quick rinse just to make sure that there isn't any debris in there, and then it's ready to rock. So you're going to get about 1.5 cups of your risotto or arborio rice, and you want to keep this moving. And soon enough you'll kind of understand what people mean when they say that risotto can have a nutty flavour. It's down to this early toasting of the rice. We're then going to add about 1 cup of white wine, and we're going to start then adding your stock. So as I said, it's about 3 cups of vegetable stock to about 2 cups of mushroom stock, and I don't really mind getting the mushrooms in there because they are edible once they're fully rehydrated. So we're going to keep adding stock, then let it sit and let the stock evaporate. You're only going to want to add stock a ladle or 2 at a time. You don't want this thing boiling. And right at the end, as we're adding our last bit of stock, we're going to add about 3/4 of our mushrooms back in. We're going to save the rest for garnish. So we add the last of our stock, and we're then going to add about 1 cup of Parmesan, and we're going to let that melt in. It's perfect at this time, after adding the Parmesan, to check for seasoning, because Parmesan can be quite salty, so the last thing you want to do is overpower it. So taste for seasoning, add your salt and pepper as you need to, give it a bit of a mix up, and then we're ready to get plating. So you're going to want to be generous with this because this is something that people want to come back for seconds with anyway. So we're going to put a ladle or two there, and you're going to want to see the rice kind of flowing by itself. We're then going to put a little bit of Parmesan. We're going to add our mushrooms. We're going to add a tiny amount more Parmesan and a bit of chopped parsley. This is one I really hope you give a go. It is an amazing dish. Let's see how we did. Oh, good God. The mushroom's there, but it's not overpowering. It's just so beautiful and earthy. Another thing you can do, which I like doing a lot, you can melt in some blue cheese as well. If you like that funky blue cheese flavor, don't be afraid to use it in it, because it pairs incredibly well with mushrooms. And if you want to push it up a notch, add a little bit of chicken. Finish it off with some crispy bacon bits. That's the joy of risotto. It's a blank slate. You pick your stock, pick your flavor profile, and then just go crazy with it. Anyway, if you made it to the end of my first proper YouTube video, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely give this a go. And a like, share, subscribe would be very much appreciated.